All right. Good morning. Welcome here to Trader Minute. Great to have you aboard. Exciting day today for us as we kick off a new challenge. Always a fun day. Uh, I will not get into a trade. We will not get into a trade right here on the open. I'll talk about some things that we're looking at getting in as the day progresses. We'll talk about some of the stocks that I know several of you are in. We'll take a look at some of the things that are happening in the market. But before we do that, I just want to do a quick overview here of the site for those of you coming on late here. Okay, if you come in, the first thing, in Prince App here. If you come up here to where it says for me, welcome Jeff. I'm just coming up here to the top. There's this little arrow, and then you can click it and go to my account. Okay, my account. If for some reason that doesn't work for you, just shoot an email off to support at traderminute.com and they can help you out there. But then to add your text number, you come here to edit account and profile, and you can come in right down here below and change your text alerts. You can change your email address, you can change your password. You can't change your username. If you need to do that, just email us and we can do that for you. But for text alerts, you just put in your number and off you go. Okay, off you go. If you are joining us from the U.S. or Canada, you do not need the country code. If you are joining us from around the world, as many of you are, just click here on what's your country's code if you do not know it, and it will bring up the various country codes from around the world. You do not need to put zeros in ahead of your country code, so you only have to put the numbers there. Okay. Like I said, if you have any trouble with it, just support at Trader Minute. Happy to help you out. Okay. Okay. Yeah, as Jared is mentioning here this morning, uh, some of the way the site is built for the mobile capacity, it does have a little issue with your running Explorer or any of the older Explorer versions of your browser. So if you update your Explorer, you'll see some of those changes here. Within the live trade seat, okay, the most common question that we've had on our support email is, how do I see which trades are being made for the challenge? Okay, well, anytime we make a trade, we will do it in this live video box where we're broadcasting from right now. We will do the trade live. You'll see it. We will also type the trade into the chat box, and it will also appear down here below in the message center. Okay. Once the trade is sent out, okay, once we make the trade, it will also be down here below, and it says current. We're not in any trades at the moment, okay, and so we will be, as we get into a trade today, you'll see it down here below, and you'll see the strike, the price we entered, and I'll be on video for quite a while talking about the trade as questions arise. Okay. If at any time you have some problems, there's this little feedback button down here in the bottom right-hand corner. You just click on that. You can take a screenshot of what's giving you an issue, okay, and shoot it off to our support staff, and they can help you out there. All right, let's go. Let's back out of that, and let's go take a look here at the market. Okay, there's an article out, and it's kind of buried in the back headlines today, as a lot of the 13Fs are out, a lot of articles about Janet Yellen and different things. But China did something last night. Chinese leaders came out and they agreed to loosen the one-child policy, and amongst other things. But this one-child policy has helped to keep the population under control over there in China. And one of the things that's happening is the population is aging, and in order to spur economic growth, well, what do? You have more children, and that spurs long-term economic growth. This is a huge change. Okay, this is an absolutely huge change from a long-term economic standpoint for China. Think about the United States. What was some of the biggest growth that we saw here in the United States? Well, that happened through the baby boomer generation, and as they started to age, and through the 80s and 90s, we saw some of the strongest economic growth here in the U.S. And so, while this isn't something that is going to affect things right here, right now, this is a pretty big issue here out there in the market. What are some of the short-term effects that might happen? Well, take a look here at Mead Johnson, MJN. Okay, and MJN is probably going to open up somewhere around 83, 84 this morning. It's going to gap up here. But if we back this chart out and look a little bit longer term, okay. One of the things that we'll see starting in 2012, we hit these highs up here around 82, and kind of had this cup pattern here, and then we've had a little bit of a handle pattern here with a lot of resistance up here in the 82 to 84 area. Okay, we have a pretty much a classic cup and handle pattern, and Mead Johnson, what do? They make infant formula among other things. And so they're going to get a boost here this morning. One of the things about this boost is in the short-term charts, they will look overbought. But if you zoom out towards the longer-term charts, we're talking about something that's making a fresh breakout and a potential catalyst to send this stock up into the triple digits over the coming months ahead. So this will be something we'll keep our eye on. Look for an entry there. Don't want to really chase it on the gap here this morning. But as we get a better risk reward entry there, we will go out, and this will be right on our radar here. Okay. Some other things going on in the market. Perhaps the biggest buzz is with some of the 13F filings. A 13F filing is when someone like Warren Buffett comes out and has to say, hey, what has he been buying? Well, one of the things he's been buying and buying aggressively is ExxonMobil. And ExxonMobil has just outperformed tremendously in the last weeks. And, Buffett piling in accounts for a lot of this move on some pretty big volume. This morning we'll see Exxon continue to jump higher as some of the buzz continues. FedEx is another one that a lot of these big investors have been piling into. One that we've seen, tremendous move higher with, and so there's just a lot of this buzz out there with all these 13Fs. My take on the 13Fs is I like to look at them. I will track, okay, what have they been buying? What have they been selling? And I generally will stay away from those in the short term, as a lot of times they'll get on an initial bounce and then pull back, but then they'll kind of continue on their uptick, especially in a bullish market. All right, so markets opening up here. Economic data this morning, not a whole lot of it. It was generally weak, right? I mean, it was generally weak. It wasn't anything exciting. It wasn't anything that's game changing for the markets. Markets this morning are opening fractionally higher. We're not seeing any major moves. Today is option expiration. We're likely to see some funny moves within some stocks where maybe you see some abnormal behavior as fund managers adjust some of their positions. Also this morning, Moody's came out, and they had some things to say about the banks. And I was emailed this morning and said, what do I think about what happened with Moody's? Well, I don't really think anything of it. Moody's came out and actually increased the credit rating for Bank of America and Citigroup. And we've been talking about Bank of America. We've been talking about how that would be a really nice trade to the upside if we were able to get a good setup. And some of the Moody's news only confirms that. I don't think it changes anything in the short term because some of this news was expected. This isn't anything out of the blue. But Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, Morgan Stanley, Moody's did drop some of their credit ratings. And you'll see even this morning, Goldman Sachs up 50 cents, Bank of America up 3 cents. These aren't events that will create a major hiccup in the financials right here this morning, but is something to take a look at going forward. Take a look here at Tesoro. We talked, I know many of you are in Tesoro. Some of you trimmed it a little bit yesterday, up here around 55. If you're running with Tesoro, please trim a little bit up here above 55. It probably goes higher. It probably goes higher, but at the same time, it's been a major move. To see a $2 to $2.50 pullback over a 2 to 3 day period would not be out of the question. Take a look back here, where we have Tesoro, big move higher. Yeah, we get a 3 day pullback before the next move higher. Do I think we get another move higher? I do. Do we have to have a pullback? No. But is that possibility increased, or the probability of that increased here? It absolutely is. Okay. Honeywell. Okay, we talked about Honeywell. Nothing happening here with Honeywell as far as from a bearish standpoint. Honeywell, very nice breakout yesterday after triggering some very bullish signals 2 days ago. And nothing here to change that. And that's really kind of the theme of the market this morning. Market's opening up relatively flat, but there's not looking across the board a whole lot of change in signals. Okay, overall signals are still, what was bullish is still bullish. What was bearish, in general, is still bearish, with a few minor exceptions here. Okay. Yeah, Darren, Texas Instruments, TXN. Okay. There's just nothing here. There's just nothing here that's bearish about it. Yeah, it's down 2 cents. Ooh, whoop-de-doo. Options expiration here, and still riding above the 7, and still, in a strong position. Look, overall today with options expiration, could you see Texas Instruments pull back to 42? Yeah, you could. I mean, you definitely could. Could you see it rally to 43? Yeah, I mean there's definitely that possibility here. I'm never a fan of buying on in the morning of options expiration. I'm not too against it during the day, but the morning of, you tend to have more adjusting going on with the various fund managers that are out there. Okay. Let's go back and take a look here at Mead Johnson MJN. Okay, this is the one I mentioned with the China story gapping up here. Do we get an entry here today? Probably. Okay, probably. Okay. Yeah, Jonathan, we will. Okay, we will. We do record all of these videos, and they are available for playback. Typically 20 to 40 minutes after they're done. You can access these videos up at the top where it says Video Library, and you can access those recordings. Okay. Couple other things. Men's Warehouse. Okay, a while back when it gapped up real big, they had bid for Joseph A. Banks. They had put an offer on the table to buy out their stock for $48 a share, and basically, Joseph A. Banks bid for Men's Warehouse. But bottom line is, a letter was sent out here today, basically saying, no, we're ending our bid. We're not going to continue further. Well, why aren't they gapping down? Why wouldn't they be really weak? They moved strongly to the upside when the news was out and when the bid was in play, but they're not moving down today on the official letter that comes out saying, "Hey, we're terminating our bid." Well, what does that tell you? That tells you the market expects for some sort of deal to still happen, but they probably expect it to now happen at a greater price point, meaning above $48. And that's actually a bullish thing for both Joseph A. Banks and Men's Warehouse. It's not something I jump into right here this morning, but in general, looking for a buy opportunity on Men's Warehouse, even though the bid has been ceased, is the way to go with this type of news, as the market's still expecting the merger to take place there. Okay. All righty. So in general, market's still pretty flat. It is pulling back a few points here at the open. Futures were up about 3 or 4 points on the open. Now they're up a point. We've seen this pretty much every morning. This small pullback. Is the market in danger of a bigger pullback here? Yeah, it is. I mean, it is. It absolutely is. If we just pull up the simple market in general here, busted into new highs. We are at the tops of some trend lines here. Could it pull back heavily? Yeah, it could. Are there any signs that that's coming right here, right now? No, not yet. Not yet. Are there some warning signs? Yeah, we've talked about some of those warning signs. We'll continue to talk about them, but overall, the market continues to be pretty strong. Apple. Analyst comes out today and it basically says that for Apple to hit their growth targets, it would be near impossible. They'd have to sell almost 55 million new phones. That is putting a little bit of damper on Apple here this morning. And for someone who wants to get into Apple here, who thinks Apple, from a technical standpoint, has a legit shot of hitting up into 545, 550. Love to see this little bit of a pullback, and perhaps for the challenge we'll be able to perhaps start out here with Apple. Yeah, Pandora, smoking higher here, right? I mean, if you remember here on Pandora Vegas, yesterday it opening up a little bit weak. Just not a big deal. Pandora is going to be volatile in a similar way as Tesoro, and you're looking for about a $32 price target. Okay, about a $32 price target. Yeah, Max, surprise bearish news on Apple on Friday. No kidding, huh? Yeah, is Apple a flag pattern? Yeah, I mean you could argue it's a little bit of a flag pattern here. You could argue that it's broken out. There are some very bullish technical arguments. There are also some bearish technical arguments with the strong reversal back here October. Okay. All right, one of the other things happening here today is Twitter. Okay, Twitter options are open. All right, Twitter options are open. So we have the option chains here. You see a little bit of volume coming into them here. Let's just go out to the Decembers. Okay, you can see some volume. Spreads are a little bit high, as no one knows really kind of where Twitter's gonna how it's gonna react to some of this news, as far as, or to the new open of the options. But for those of you looking to play Twitter, we now have options. We now have the ability to go out and play it to the upside or the downside. My bias with Twitter here would be negative overall. So I will be looking at some of the puts here today, seeing if we get some sort of opportunity. The one problem with Twitter is you don't have a lot of technical data to go off of. So it's not like you can use some of the technical indicators or some of the past history tendencies. You're pretty much flipping a coin or looking at a really short term chart with Twitter. So for those of you who want to play Twitter, it's open. The straddles, strangle type of plays may set up, and it may be a better opportunity for spreads with some of the implied volatility. But one of the things we note here, some of the implied volatilities aren't real bad at all relative to what they could be here for Twitter. Yeah, Max, Twitter is still trading above the 7-day moving average. Absolutely. But it's in the face of that of the doji candle, right? So we can't yeah, we got discrepancies there in the technicals. Yeah, Amazon. Amazon, very nice move yesterday. Continuing it here today. This is a very nice move, and something that is not uncommon for a stock that gaps up on earnings. gap up on earnings, go flat. Okay, some of the patience wears, sellers jump in, and then some of the buyers then jump back in, take it above the 7 and shoot it higher. Very similar action to what we're seeing on Google. Okay, very similar action to basically what we saw on Facebook earnings right back here in August, where Facebook it continued a little bit higher at first, but then had this small breakdown below the 7, started to move back above the 7 and continue its run. Okay. For those of you that are new, you'll notice on every single chart that we use, okay, on every single chart that we use here, we use the 7-day moving average. Okay. There's nothing magical about the 7-day moving average. It's only a simple moving average. It's not even an exponential moving average, but it helps us to determine trend, short-term trend, and risk, and it often provides triggers. So something like Facebook here, okay, if you're looking to get long Facebook, well, 2 days ago, okay, you finally had the pullback on Facebook end and move back above the 7-day moving average. If you have a bullish bias, you want to get long, you can use that as a point to get long and trade it higher as long as it stays up above the 7-day moving average. If you're a little more bearish on Facebook, you want to play it lower. Okay, well, it's now trading above the 7. No need to jump into puts now. Let it break back below the 7. You'll have a better opportunity. The probabilities will be much more in your favor of those puts working. Yeah, PW. See any break in triple D now below the upper Bollinger Band? Yeah, this type of action here on triple D is a sign that it's weakening as far as its upward trend. It's not really bearish because the upward trend has been so strong. Okay, one of several things will happen at something like this. The most common action is for it to consolidate a few days and then to kind of kick higher for one or two more days. I believe back here in May we had something similar. Yeah. Hey, take a look back here in May. You're riding the upper Bollinger Band. DDD is flying. It starts to come off. What to do? It comes back towards the 7. This one's a little more volatile than what Triple D is doing now, and then pops back up into its final high over the next coming days. This is more common action after you start to see that break, if it's not breaking on some sort of strong volume bearish type of a candle. Is the risk a little bit higher here? Yeah. Is it a time to probably take a little bit of profit off? Yeah. Take a little bit, ride the rest with the 7, and go with it. Okay. Yeah, it's a little different than Tesoro here. You notice Tesoro not really breaking the band yet. Okay, so while you can trim Tesoro, there's no sign saying, hey, move on out. Triple D, a little more dangerous. Yeah, JD, Disney thoughts. Long term, those of you who know me, I'm very bullish on Disney. Um, it's uh, it's a stock that could easily move up into the $80 range with some of the fundamentals that are going on. We're talking about a major breakout here for Disney. Um, above the 67 area, and it's pulled back there to 67. It's shot higher here. Look, with options expiration, you really never know where they're gonna pin it, where they're gonna take it. But overall, the overall picture is strongly bullish with support down here in the 67 to 68 area. So if you're riding on the calls or you're riding to the upside, there's nothing saying take it off. Or you're riding along the stock, there's nothing saying to move out. If you're looking like me to get in, I'm just kind of looking for a good risk reward spot. Where would that be? You know, it would be really nice if we saw this thing hold pretty much steady today. Maybe gap down to 69.5 on Monday, start to trade back above 70 and go chase it there. Okay. Yeah, Tesla. Some news on Tesla this morning. I did not look at it yet. I just saw it come across. I will go back and look at it. But Tesla continues to be weaker. I still like it to the downside. You have a lot of risk here with Tesla, of a bounce up into the 150, 155 area. But this is the type of a stock, that flies higher, and when it breaks down, it tends to over exaggerate. And while I'd love to be a buyer, I think Tesla, even at 120, is a really good buy. It's probably going to over exaggerate to the downside and has a risk of going into double digits there. So it's something that is on the table. Okay. Yeah, Tradehound, Texas Instruments here. There's nothing bearish here. It's down 20 cents as the market's weakened just a bit here on the open. It still remains strong. It's not one that I would react to here this morning, especially being in the face of options expiration. Okay. Yeah, KK, so you new here. Is this a new challenge session? Yeah, we're not going to make a trade for the challenge right here this morning on the open being options expiration. We'll make the trade most likely this afternoon. In about an hour and 15 minutes, I'll get back on here. We'll talk about the challenge. I'll talk about the first couple trades that we're looking to line up for it, and we'll talk about that. And then when we go out and make that first trade, those will go out via text, email. You'll see us do it here on this same video screen. Okay. Yeah, John. GNW on the 7 hour. GNW. I wouldn't play this lower. Not right here with what the daily is doing. I'd be real nervous to trust the hourlies here on expiration Friday, John. Yeah, Nike. Carl had it in his top three, right? And Nike pulling back what 20 cents here this morning. These just aren't real big moves. Yeah, could they get bigger? But yeah, keep in mind we're seeing the market do what it's pretty much done every single day. It opens up slightly higher, it sells off a few points in the morning, and then rallies. Could today be a little bit different? Yeah, it could. It absolutely could. But so far, that's what we're seeing. Uh, Not a whole lot of new triggers flying into the market here today. Okay. Yelp continuing its low volume rally. Some of that news out of China does help some of these Chinese names. It's still a low volume rally. It's getting back into a really juicy resistance area where we start to see any sort of bearish candle come in on this. We can use that and get some sort of downside entry on Yelp. Okay. Yeah, Ken. AUY with gold here. I don't think we're going to get a big move here out of the miners. The gold market's pretty quiet. We did have some of the data this morning. Didn't really create any sort of move within them, and so I don't expect to see any big move here with AUY today. It's probably going to sit somewhere between 940 and 960. Okay. Yeah, Chase, but do you use TradeAlert.com to see big calls and puts by paper? I've gone on, I've seen them. I've seen those. Um, it's another one of those tools out there. Some good stuff. Yeah, Priceline. Can it keep going higher? Yes. I mean, it can fundamentally. It can absolutely keep going higher. It really shrugged off this sell here with a nice little kicking action. Is it a little bit overextended here? Yeah. Yeah, but fundamentally, it's not exactly expensive at this point. Netflix, okay, which triggered a vibe bull signal yesterday. Carl will talk a little more about those here today. but Netflix triggered a very bullish signal yesterday, continuing higher here today. The trouble with Netflix is you're still within this earnings reaction, right? When who was it? Soros basically dumped a whole bunch of Netflix on the big gap up, and you're dealing in this spot. And so anytime I see a stock just trickling up in the midst of some sort of big earnings reaction, I'm always concerned that there's going to be some follow through that will hit a point where they say, you know what, it's time to sell some more. Thanks, Wick. Yeah, Carl Icahn, not George Soros. But that we get to a point where, you know what, they're going to want to sell this thing hard. It doesn't have to happen, but that's a concern that we can off that I would have with it. CME snag. No, this CME is. I mean, look, we've seen the NASDAQ exchange have issue after issue after issue this year and continue to go higher. CME continues it. It's in a very nice breakout. This is one of the most bullish sectors out there in the market. ICE is another one, not as nice of a chart here, but CME is probably one of the best charts within this group. NYX, you're not going to be able to really trade this anymore as there's some mergers happening, but CME is in a very nice spot. 77.5 is kind of your support area here on CME, and showing all signs of pushing higher. This type of long-term action right here from June, July, August, September, October. This is very bullish action overall. And while it didn't just break out and go higher, it had another little dip on here, and now breaking out. Now that's a very strongly bullish chart there for CME. Just got word here. Tesla, some of their accounting practices being called into question. Thanks, Carl. Some of Tesla's accounting being called into question. Look, I mean, there's just a lot of things to say. You know what, Tesla? Yes, I love Tesla long term. I think Tesla long term is a really good stock, but it's one of those like Netflix. It's gonna have your 50 to 70% drops that can be bought into at that point. Right now, we're just seeing the ball continue to push lower here. Yeah, my thought on ExxonMobil and Warren Buffett's position there. I do not like chasing into stocks that are moving on the 13Fs. It's not my favorite thing in the world to do. You can oftentimes see it kind of be an exhaustion point. But at the same time, we could spot 100 cases where they continue to rally. So I don't find it overly predictable, and so I like to kind of just let the charts kind of come in, let some of the news fade off, and go from there. Okay. Yeah, Petra a sharp pullback for Western Digital. Yeah, it was a sharp rally into the close yesterday, right? So whenever you're dealing with something that surges so fast, um, to see some sort of drop in the short term, never out of the realm of possibility. Very similar to what Pandora went through yesterday, right? I mean, it opened up and it had been going higher, and yesterday morning had a sharp pullback, and then just trickled higher all day, and is now continuing its bullish run, which for those of you in those Pandora calls, fantastic. Okay. Okay. Um, Vegas, you sold your Pandora. Nice. Okay, very nice. You bought it 42 cents and sold it $2. Sweet, sweet. Yeah, Whirlpool here continue to be very bullish. The news out of China is actually pretty good for Whirlpool. Whirlpool's been able to make a lot of inroads into some of the emerging markets, and while they don't have a huge footing in China, that is some pretty good news there. Okay. Yeah, solar stocks continue to be on fire. They are pulling back a little bit this morning. Just options expiration to see that happen. And some of these solar stocks, get a little bit of weakness on them. I wouldn't be surprised to see them pull back here into the next week, week and a half. They're a little hot right here. Okay? They're a lot of hot. Okay? Yeah, Apple. Do I think it'll have a huge move today? I don't. I really don't. I guess when I look at this market, I don't see a huge move one way or the other coming. We may see it on the bullish or bearish side up a 0.5%. I don't see a kind of a full percentage type of a move. It's just not there. Okay. Deb. Okay, you've been into BBBY. Okay, you've been on the put side. Okay. Yeah, okay. Put side here, triggered on the downside, had a whip back up above the 7-day moving average, essentially created a bear trap here for Bed Bath and Beyond. Uh, with options expiration, you had that surge on Wednesday with options expiration to see it pull back a little bit. Not would not be surprising. Deb, what I would be looking for is a pullback to around 77. And if it were mine, depending on what happens there around 77, I'd probably look to say, you know what, let's stop the bleeding there, move out, and go mess into something else. A stock that gives some sort of downside trigger, like it did down below 76, and then whipsaws back the other way, it can be very very dangerous for the bears. And you're talking about something here which realistically, you could see it trade up into the low 80s. Okay, up into the low 80s there. Sounds good, Trade Hound. Sounds good on Tesoro. Good deal. All righty. Well, okay. One more here at Groupon. Groupon here. It's not one I follow as much as some of the others. It is in a bullish position. We've seen some bullish volumes come in, hitting the upper Bollinger Band as it's been contracting. Look, it's a type of chart that tends to go higher. Here with Groupon, it's nothing I would short. But the the bullish triggers, they came in this week, and there's nothing today to kind of erase that. And I really think that'll be a theme for today. It'll be that there isn't going to be a reversal in signals. What has triggered bullish is going to continue bullish, and what has triggered bearish is going to continue bearish. So Allstate yesterday triggered bullish. Carl put it on his top three. It's down what 11 cents this morning. Whoop-de-doo. It's not erasing any of the bullish triggers that had happened there. Okay. Yeah, Chase. But as far as Apple for a butterfly as a trade at 530, I've not gone and priced those out. I'm not a heavy butterfly trader. I would probably defer to your knowledge on liking that. Uh, Butterflies. I'm not with Apple probably staying flat most of the day. Butterfly would probably work pretty well, but overall, I think Apple has more directional movement in it as we head into next week. All right. Well, thanks for hopping on. Carl will be on with you on chat here for the next hour. I will be back in 1 hour to talk more specifically about the challenge and some of the upcoming trade potential for the challenge, some of the things that we're looking at, and some of the ways that we will go about with the new challenge. And as far as when we're going to make the first challenge trade, uh, after we talk in an hour, basically we we'll continue to look at some of the signals and entries. We'll spot and identify those, and as we head, beyond 2 o'clock Eastern, we'll probably be ready to pull the trigger. Okay. That's correct, Trade Hound. It'll be 11 o'clock Eastern, so 1 hour from now. And Doc Trump's great question about trading out a specific basket. No, but I basically have a list here of stocks that I've kind of been watching and preparing for this new challenge. Okay. So no, we did not buy anything yet. We did not buy anything. When we do buy something, you'll see it in the message center. You'll also get a text and an email alert on that, and we'll probably buy something after about 2 o'clock Eastern here today. Hey, thanks for hopping on, and any questions, please let us know, and we will talk to you later. Take care.